Good evening. It is Tuesday, July 12th, 2016. My name is Jacob,
And I'm Danielle.
and we are the Proteus Podcast. Ideas in all shapes and forms.
How are you doing there, Jake?
Pretty good.
Are you having a good day?
Tis one of my days off, so I have spent it eating a hamburger and playing a video game.
That must be a really large cheeseburger. Spend an entire day eating it.
No, well, those are the two things I've devoted my day to, not necessarily throughout the entire day for any one activity.
What kind of cheeseburger?
Well, there's a new cheeseburger place in a newly built gas station here in town, and it is, weirdly enough, the best burgers in town.
So it's gas station burger.
Yeah, but they got a full kitchen, it's like a restaurant in this, attached to a gas station kind of a situation. Really good food, though.
Oh, man.
I've been sending everyone there.
So many comments. So little time.
Yeah, we're just going to take that and add it to the pile.
So a couple weeks ago, to get down into the meat of the podcast, so to speak, not that I don't want to listen and talk about gas station burgers forever and infinity.
Well, the thing about gas station burgers is they come in all shapes and forms.
That's true. I mean, there's the old TNC burgers, and then there's like...
I never had a burger there.
Ugh. I cringe. Anyway.
Nevertheless,
I want to talk about, because I just finished binge watching the Chronicles of Shannara series that MTV produced.
I've heard
based off
mixed
of the
reviews.
Shannara books. Yeah. So this gave me the thought of, let's talk about books or written works that have been turned into film.
Indeed.
And before I delve into the Shannara ones particular, I think we should talk about what qualifies a good book to film adaptation.
I'm trying to think of one, and the only good book to film adaptation I can think of is The Lord of the Rings.
I can think of a couple. Lonesome Dove.
True. Lonesome Dove is a good adaptation, I would think.
Yeah, Lonesome Dove was great. Though some people may disagree with the next one, I think the BBC series of the adaptation of Pride and Prejudice.
Haven't seen that myself.
It's a little bit slow, but I like it. It also holds a lot of feels to me. What?
You asked me to turn it off.
Anyways,
I'm getting in trouble here. So I watched it when I was a kid, and I have or when I was younger. So I have a lot of feels about it. And so a couple days ago, it was being watched in my household, and I was concentrating on a video game, and that was being watched in the background, and I was having a hard time splitting my attention. So I asked that it be turned off because I also wanted to focus on the video game, and I just got in trouble for that.
sounds about right.
Sounds about right. So anyway,
Now, speaking of the Lonesome Dove series, though, not all of those movies are good adaptations of the books.
Well, for the most part,
The original Lonesome Dove that was produced was good, but some of the sequels and prequels are a little bit embarrassing.
I'm talking about the original ones.
Well, but still, it's worth pointing out that not all of the film Lonesome Doves are good representations of their origin work.
Right. Do you know what I liked about those films? About those shows, I guess I should say. These film adaptations. Is that they weren't afraid, or maybe it was just a different time period, to film sections of the book that were
actually boring.
Actually boring. like the in-between parts of like, it takes time to get from point A to point B in the wild, wild west.
Yeah, I think that's something that you're right, has been missing from a lot of current film is the temporal aspects of it, where it takes time from get to point A to point B, and you see James Bond in London, and in the next scene he's on top of a train in Kabul.
Right,
like,
and you're like,
that was quick.
How did that happen? And
leaving out even the hint that they were on a boring 14-hour flight.
Right.
Or 16 days in a paddy wagon on the back of the Alps or something ridiculous.
Right, so I totally don't mind 3 to 5 minutes donated, donated to the aspect of this shit takes time. This guy's gonna talk to himself.
Yeah, that's something that brings me to a different movie, that the aspect of time being involved, which is a really odd example, is the film adaptation of Michael Crichton's Timeline. Which, if you haven't read, is a book about going back in time and doing things in medieval days. And the gist of the plot, and because this has been out long enough, I don't feel bad spoilering it, but if you actually care, spoiler alert, the gist of it is they go back in time, and they've got a little token that they can use to signal the machine to come and get them, and it's got a finite battery life. So they have a finite period of time in which they are able to retrieve the machine. The reason they're going back in time is to retrieve someone who got trapped back there.
Right.
So throughout the book, there's this distinct sense of urgency. Like, all these bad things keep happening to them that are delaying them, and now they have to go over here and deal with this, and now they have to sneak through tunnels. Very, very, urgent sensation throughout the whole book. Like, this is, they're not going to make it. They're going to run out of time, Even though there's nothing physically counting down, other than the fact that you're turning pages, and you're getting closer and closer to the end of the book, and it's not happening. They're not there yet. And they've got to... And so it's got an incredible sense of urgency throughout the whole thing. The movie, and here's the weirdest complaint I've ever made about a movie, the movie was too short to give that sense of urgency.
Huh. How long was it?
It was like a 90-minute runtime. I think it was less than 2 hours.
Oh, that's not enough time for a Michael Crichton novel film adaptation.
The result was all of these difficult tasks that they had to overcome were just sort of glossed over, and they just larked through it. And you never felt like they weren't going to make it back, because the movie kept rolling and progressing so smoothly and so quickly. You never got that sense of urgency. Like, they've been working on trying to get back for a long time now, and they're not even close. You never had that feeling. It was a really weird problem to have, that the movie was too short to convey the sense of urgency.
One of the things that the Lord of the Rings did in the second film, the Two Towers, that Peter Jackson did, that a lot of people complained about time and time again, was that scene where they're just running across the land.
I liked that.
I love it.
It conveyed a sense of urgency.
Right. It conveyed a sense of urgency. It made it known that, hey, it takes some time to get from point A to point B in Middle Earth.
Not only did it convey a sense of urgency and a sense of time, it also conveyed a sense of effort, where they didn't just run over here real quick and get their friends back. This was a monumental effort that they put forth to go do this.
Mm-hmm. So, we'll use this example of something that's good in a book to film adaptation, right?
Excellent.
A sense of time, sense of distance.
Mm-hmm.
Which brings me to my first complaint about the Shannara Chronicles.
It contains neither of those two features?
No. As a matter of fact, it is, they're like, all right, we have a very short amount of time to save the world. We have to get to this place called Safehold, which is evidently San Francisco, and we're on the other side of the Rocky Mountains.
So we are in Kansas-ish.
Right. Ish.
And somehow, over the course of 15 minutes of the episode, they go from Kansas to San Francisco.
It's like, we have a day to get back. how the hell did you get from San Francisco back over these mountains?
Yeah, that's barely possible in modern times with modern travel unless you have an aircraft.
Right. So it's just, so there's like that. There's no sense of time. It's just they're just like rocket tagging back and forth between all these things, and you get no ideal that there's an actual sense of urgency because these people can get anywhere they want, it seems, by walking off screen. B, it doesn't give you a chance to really appreciate the world they're in.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Like
Lord of the Rings, you get the vast sweeping vistas and you see this giant scenery and get a scope of the land.
Right.
Whereas if you just kind of fade to the next area, you don't get any of that. You don't do any world building through, establishing shots. It's there's a reason they're there.
Exactly. It's like you're building the mystique of the backdrop.
It's quite literally world building.
Mm-hmm. Which they do none of in that aspect.
Yeah.
It's like, so, all right, I'm going to go back. We're going to discuss good points, and then I'm going to go, and this is where they failed. I'm going to do this a couple times. Another instance of this, which comes up more probably in the books, are the Harry Potter books adapted to film. Because unlike a lot of these like trilogies or whatnot, a lot of the Harry Potter films had different directors.
Yeah.
And to me, the ones that really work are the ones where it allows the moments of them doing school stuff to happen.
Because that's why they're there. You've got it. It's not, everything's not just bang, bang, bang adventure. In the books, there's a reason those books are thicker than, a New York City phone book.
Right.
There's a lot of details put in there to make kids, because really they were marketed to children, and children can relate to, doing schoolwork, but then you get an adventure, stuff, so there's a reason to put that world building in a book. And you have to at least pay homage to that in your film adaptation. Clearly, you don't want a 9-hour-long Harry Potter movie. Well, the fans might enjoy that, the really hardcore ones, but most people can't sit that long.
I would do it.
Yeah, you would.
But for instance, you got the 6th movie, right? Where everything is truly going to shit. Dumbledore dies.
Yeah.
Oh, spoiler alert.
By the way,
Snape kills Dumbledore. So anyway, like that movie, the way it's done, you don't get the impression that Harry's actually at school.
No, you get the impression he's fighting a war.
Right. It's like he's ramping up to fight a war, and he's doing school-type espionage.
Yeah, I got that same impression. It stopped feeling like it was a story about a kid going to school and dealing with all this other stuff. It was a kid dealing with all this other stuff who happened to be at school.
Right. And so then people complained, of course, in the last 2 films, the 7th one, where he's actually not in school, that they spent this time. Hear the demon cat? The demon cat is back.
Greet the cat for me.
The cat is like, I don't approve of your podcast. You have 0 listeners. Yes. That's not true.
We have at least one listener.
We have ones of listeners.
Ones of listeners.
Which may be a ripoff of another podcast thing, but who cares? Possibly. So anyway, in Harry Potter, in the last 2 movies, they're long, but they cover a lot of that in-between space, right? The moments where... I'm going to kill the cat. The moments where they are like just sitting there, like thinking about what they need to do. Yeah. Like you actually get the idea that they are lost. Not necessarily physically because they know where they're at because they're wizards, but they're lost in like what's their course of action.
Yeah.
What are they going to do? And that's palpable because that director did a good job.
Yeah, it's an important part of the story. To
Mm-hmm.
get that rudderless moment where you're just like, man, I don't even know what we're going to do next, kind of. Because people spend a lot of their life going, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing.
So
What should I do with my hands? Yeah, another movie that suffers a bit from the time dilation effect, we could call it really, was the Voyage of the Dawn Treader, the last Narnia movie that they made.
they made more than the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
Yeah, they made it all the way up through the Voyage of the Dawn Treader, which was greatly disappointing to me because it was probably my favorite book in the series,
It's a
and
good
they
book.
booched it.
Well, the first one kind of flopped in the
No, it
box
did pretty
office,
well.
right?
No, it did pretty well. It made enough money to convince them it was a good idea to keep going through 3 more movies.
See, I never knew that they did more than. Oh wait, I remember Prince Caspian.
Yeah, they did Prince Caspian. I guess 2 more movies. They got because it was Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, Prince Caspian, and the Voyage of the Dawn Treader, and then they stalled out because they weren't. I get the impression they weren't really sure how to get like A Horse and His Boy and The Magician's Nephew made with totally different cast. You know, no one's going to be the same in those movies,
Right.
and still be able to market them. And so it all, because you know, all the characters come back at the final movie, but you've got to do 3 more movies that don't have any of the original cast, and it's going to be. It really became a difficult thing, and it all stalled out, especially after the Voyage of the Dawn Treader did so badly. But
Yeah.
it also suffered from the time dilation where, you know, in the book you get the sense this is a long voyage. They're out there on the ocean for a long time. They go between all these islands and it's a long thing that it takes a while. And it was kind of just, here's an island, here's an island, here's an island, here's the end in the movie. And you didn't get that sense of sea voyage and, you know, the time it takes and all that.
Yeah, it needed a little
It
bit
didn't
more
have
of
that
Master and
epic journey
Commander.
to the end of the world, which is what it was.
Right. No, I haven't seen it, but I will agree with you because I'm sure that that's what happened.
Prince Caspian had its own flaws for adding a lot of things that weren't in the book at all. Because in the first movie, this got pointed out big time, it was good up until the final battle. Because the final battle in the book is a page. And
Right.
it's a good, at least a quarter of the movie is the final
Right.
battle. And because, you know, battle scenes are exciting, and otherwise the movie would have been really short because they're not particularly long books. And so you had to take a few liberties, you know, and have some dramatic battle scenes that aren't explicitly written into the book. And they doubled down on that heavily in Prince Caspian and added these an entire battle that wasn't in the book.
Right.
It just, and then left out lots of important things that were really puzzling to the fans.
So all right. So what's a good example of adding things from the book, like that's counterpoint, or things that weren't necessarily in the book
Adding things that weren't necessarily in the book.
that worked out for the film? Are there any good examples of
There's
that?
one. I can't remember what movie it is. It's a Stephen King movie.
Okay.
And they changed the ending, and Stephen King liked it so well, he said if he could do it over, he would have written it that way.
What was the ending?
I can't remember what movie it was. I just
if I start
specifically
listing
remember
off
reading an
movies,
interview.
will you remember?
Maybe.
The Stand.
No.
Langoliers.
Okay, it might not have been Stephen King. Was that movie with the mist and the monsters coming out of the mist? It's called The Mist, wasn't it?
The Mist.
Wasn't it?
M. Night Shyamalan.
No. Was that a Shyamalan movie?
I don't know.
It had a horribly depressing ending. Was the point in the movie?
Wait, is this the one with the village and they're like living out of
No,
time?
that was The Village.
The village.
The Mist was like basically it's this small town somewhere, and then one day they wake up and it's very foggy, and then anybody that goes outside gets sucked into the mist by these monsters, and you never see them again, right? And
Okay.
so it becomes a survival scenario where everyone's trying to gather supplies and stay together and don't go outside and don't be out in the mist alone. And at the end of the movie, You get down to like the core couple characters. There's the father, his kid, and like a lady and her kid, and they're in a car driving, just trying to get out of the mist. Driving and driving and driving. They finally run out of gas, and there's no end in sight. Right? And he's got a gun with 3 bullets.
Oh.
Okay, and so your options are go get eaten by the monsters, or I've got 3 bullets. And so in the movie, I'm gonna make sure I get this right. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is the way this goes. In the movie, he ends up shooting everybody else in the car so that they don't have to get eaten by monsters, right? And then he's sitting there, thinking about getting out of the car. And all of a sudden the mist starts clearing, and here's the army with flamethrowers beating back this problem. Like 2 minutes after he's done this. Horrifyingly depressing. That's not how the book ends. It ended on a much happier note. But the author that wrote it said, wow, that's a really dark ending, but I liked it.
Wow.
Because and it was well acted, it's a lot of serious drama and just this sheer desperation and then everything rolled into it.
Do you even suicide, bro?
Yeah, it was a really tough scene in that movie, but the author of the book was very impressed with the change and said he would
so you
to
have
go back
homework.
and do it again, he would have written it.
You have homework to figure out who the author was and what the book was, what the movie was. Let's see here. The Lord of the Rings didn't so much as add things for the trilogy as much as they took things away.
It's called The Mist. It was by Stephen King.
Okay. Good job.
Mm-hmm.
Never seen it.
Huh.
Yeah. Go figure. Anyway, Lord of the Rings took a lot of stuff out.
Yeah.
Like Tom Bombadil. Much to the nerd rage of many a Tolkien fans. What do you think about that? The exclusion of things that don't necessarily add to the depth of the story, but are good flavor that didn't show up.
It comes to a point where it's just impossible to put everything in because you've got so much, content, and you're going to have to pick something that you got to take out. Otherwise, you're going to have a 10-hour-long movie, which most people won't go see. I think it's one of those things that if you can do it, you get with the original author, and if you can't, you revise and revise and revise until as much of the content is in it within the allowable runtime.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's a tough path to travel. Because, the true fans of those works are going to want everything in there, and they're going to be disappointed at stuff that wasn't. But, like I said, you've got to leave stuff. The whole trick to doing that, and I've seen a few movies that do this, is if you're going to leave stuff out, for the love of God, do not put anything in there that wasn't in the book. Don't whole cloth create scenes that were not even remotely alluded to, because you will find yourself under the nerd rage.
Like The Hobbit?
Yeah, The Hobbit did that to a great extent.
But I still enjoyed The Hobbit, I don't mind admitting it.
Yeah.
It was a romp through high fantasy. Less of a book adaptation and more of a... Let's put this story on steroids?
Yeah.
So, going back to the Chronicles of Shannara, and one of its failings is that in the books, the illusion that they're on Earth is very subtle.
Oh, yeah?
Like, as a matter of fact, the reveal that it is Earth comes near the end of one of the books, and it's like this slow build up. And in the show, it's like it just slaps you with it, like not in a nuanced way, just like, yeah, we're tending to the farm, I'm gonna get, and this is thousands of years, right? You're told this is thousands of years after this catastrophe on Earth. Like, yep, I'm doing the farm, I'm gonna lean up against this rusted old truck.
Huh.
And it's like, thousands of years, huh?
Thousands of years, huh?
Rusted truck, huh?
I wonder how long a rusty truck really would last.
And then they're like, this one guy, human, in it, trades stuff away for perfectly working revolvers.
Thousands of years, huh?
Thousands of years. Perfectly working, pearl-handled grips revolvers.
Ooh, jealous.
With ammo. Lots of ammo.
With working ammo.
With working ammo.
I really am curious just how long you could keep ammo working, and even under ideal storage conditions, would it last for thousands of years and still be fireable?
Dude, that's a good question. Probably not. I mean, this gunpowder gets a bit stale, right? I mean,
it shouldn't.
It gets damp.
If it gets damp, but you can dry it back out. It's a kind of an amazing material.
Yeah, but I'm just thinking, like, all right, so this was found. These revolvers and this weapon cache was found in the wastelands. I mean, after thousands of years, the oxidization on the shell casings themselves
Would be a problem, but it would probably still fire. It might just blow the gun up.
Exactly.
It really depends on the round. I mean, well, we're taking this down a completely different path, but yeah,
so anyway,
it's an interesting question.
So it's so there's all these like jarring reminders that's like, hey, just in case you forgot,
This is totally the future.
This is totally the future. So sometimes they do and this is going to tie into them not prolonging things out a little bit. They do this like shot of the background, like of a valley, and you see like what at first looks is spires of rock, and then you realize that they're like deteriorating, moss-covered remains of skyscrapers. And you're like,
thousands of years, huh?
Thousands of years. But then again, they instantly go away from that into whatever emergency that they're in. You're like, oh, I have no idea what's going on anymore. But the most ragey part that I found in this bit of like adding things to this film adaptation that's just stupid is two of the protagonists fall, like they're running in this area and the ground gives way and they fall into a gymnasium of a high school.
Oh, wow. Thousands of years, huh?
Thousands of years.
Wow. Yeah.
And so much to the point that for like half the episode, one of these characters, thousands of years later, is wearing some Letterman's jacket they found because she was cold. Oh, it's a Letterman's jacket.
I saw a great short
Thousands
film
of years old.
that played that game. Where
What game?
it's thousands of years game. There's this little short film. Don't ask me the name of it. Been too long ago. These, this spaceship lands on a little planet, and it's looks like the moon, right? It's just gray. And then astronauts in spacesuits get out and they walk around and they're looking at things and doing tests, and then one of them falls through a hole, right? Like something collapses and they fall in, and they're having to, and the one's getting the thing out and reeling a cord down to him to get him out and help him, and pulls him up, and they're talking the whole time about what do you think this place was, and they got some signals from such and such, and checking it out, and the whole time, because we're who we are, you're thinking, okay, it's some astronauts checking things out. Last scene in the movie, the light sweeps around and you see that it's human skulls that he's been climbing over, and it's in like the top floor of a skyscraper, and everything's covered, and then you finally get a look through the visor of one of the things, and it's an alien in a spacesuit coming to check out some post-apocalyptic future Earth, and it just flips your expectations on its head right at the very end.
Right.
But it's thousands of years, huh? This building's holding up a spaceship.
Thousands of years.
Yes.
Oh, man. So, yeah, so aside from all that, let me tell you that the film that this adaptation of the books is very ragey for me.
I'd imagine so.
I mean,
It's a lot like, say, Legend of the Seeker.
I didn't even.
It's great if you never read the books.
I
That's how a lot of those go. When it comes to, especially television adaptations, more so than film adaptations, even. Because television, they've got to string it along and make things happen for 13 episodes a season at least.
But they easily could have done this. I mean, this series was based off of the Elfstones of Shannara, which is probably the best book of all of Terry Brooks' Shannara books.
Yeah.
Right?
Like I said, television has a harder time with it, I think.
But
television producers are not nearly as confident as film ones. They're not really sure of their audience.
So the other part that I had an issue with, and I know, and I'll wrap up here because this is what other films have done well with, and this one had just suffered. Casting.
Oh.
Casting is everything, right?
All the worst people for the wrong roles.
Well, so they did a couple really good casting decisions for the show. I say a couple, two. The first one is the Elf King, who's there for the first 4 episodes, and it's the guy who played Gimli.
Oh wow.
Rhys Davies, I think his name is. So he plays the Elven King, and he's amazing. That guy is an amazing actor.
Yes, he is.
And the guy who plays Slade Wilson in The Arrow is cast as Alanon, the Druid. Amazing casting for those 2 roles, right?
Right. You get to see them for 3 episodes because.
Alanon's in every single one. It's hard to do Shannara without Alanon.
Impressive.
But everyone else is in their early 20s.
Yep, sounds about right.
So not only is everyone else in their early 20s, but if you're old in this, you either get killed off brutally or you get fucked over so hard. But all the super young people, the majority of the cast, stays perfectly clean, hair perfect, teeth perfect, middle of a battle, everything's perfect, running through a rainy mudslide, still super perfect. Clean.
Makeup looks nice. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that is just so... Oh, and the last thing. They whitewashed the entire story.
Wow,
Had one African-American character. Everything else is whitewashed.
At this point, they should know better. God.
There's
no reason to do that anymore. There's plenty of perfectly good actors that can fill those roles appropriately.
Yeah, and especially doing something that's supposedly thousands of years later in America. What happened? Did we kill off everyone who was ethnic?
Yep. That would be the assumption. Gotta feed that white guilt somehow.
Anyway,
that brings me to one last point I'd like to make.
Adaptation. Yeah, go ahead.
And this isn't necessarily a film adaptation, and I can't even remember the name of the show. It was out a couple of years, 3 years ago now. It had Kiefer Sutherland and his character's son named Jake, which was just... And his kid keeps getting kidnapped by this massive corporation, and he's running around trying to rescue his son, who can see Mandelbrot sets and into the future and shit like that.
Oh, is this the one where everything's connected?
Everything's connected.
And Kiefer Sutherland works at the airport and collects broken phones for his kid. Yeah.
Well, anyways, when that show was coming out, they made this big deal. It's like Kiefer Sutherland and Danny Glover in this show, and Danny Glover's character gets killed off in the first or second episode. I'm like, y'all need to really quit doing that. Quit using big name actors to market your really mediocre shows.
Well,
if you can't afford to pay them for more than one episode, just maybe start over and come up with a better idea.
So, second, and then let's wrap up. Second season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. They hyped up the entire summer leading into it Lucy Lawless joining cast of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Lucy Lawless, newest agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., right?
I don't even remember that.
Yeah. It was this big thing, and there was all kinds of hype. And then they introduce her, and she is amazing. Like, her character is great. It has depth, and they kill her off. Boom! At the end of the first episode.
Hmm.
And it's like, Lucy Lawless? What happened? Hate that shit.
Yeah,
So
that's annoying.
Now that we've talked about films that piss us off and films that make us happy that are adaptations, how jaded are you today?
How jaded am I today? Not particularly jaded. Probably like, a 2.
I'm at a 4, maybe a 5.
I'm just chilling.
Yeah, I want to just be chilling, but there's too much going on. Too much destroying of things that I read as a child. Wah, wah. Do you have a quote?
Well, I guess this one's as good as any. It's by Mark Twain. It says, "A human being has a natural desire to have more of a good thing than he actually needs."
Okay.
And I think that can be blamed for the weird changes people make to movies, is they think it's going to make them more money. It's
Make
like,
more money.
It'll be better for this demographic. We'll throw this in there.
Yeah, I
Everyone
think that's
will be
what
white teenagers.
white teenagers.
If that'll market it to white teenagers. Those are the ones with their parents' credit cards.
Mine is a Stephen King quote.
Ooh.
Books and movies are like apples and oranges. They both are fruit, but taste completely different.
That is good.
Yeah, I thought that was apt for the discussion today.
I like it.
So, if you enjoyed listening to us and want to hear more, please subscribe to us on Twitter, Stitcher, iTunes, Google. I say Google because you could search it for us on Google. You can also email us at proteuspodcast@gmail.com or find us on YouTube, the Proteus Podcast channel.
All of these
Did I miss
things
any?
are completely true.
All these things are completely true. So, dear sir, good day.
I've been Jacob.
And I'm still Danielle.
Have a good night.